can spend 3 hours.
We're up against a hard break. We gotta go.
You just made a great example of Twitter as news, because you said Zycam like it was totally friggin' irrelevant, but the FDA just issued that it can cause permanent loss of smell. So there wasn't any breaking there, and you all witnessed it.
Who? Here's an example, though. Here's a great example of, and I thought it was an advertisement because I didn't check it in 5 minutes. It was in the middle of a panel, and also. We're dealing with all of this convergence of stuff. No, I know, and I totally am on board with this. I totally agree. But here's and I won't mention which network that I worked at a few years ago. Doesn't really matter. But there was an executive who came into a meeting and he said, the media online is the future of this network, and meanwhile they had 2 web people. And we had an entire newsroom filled with reporters and producers and everything else, and we only had 2 web people doing all of the work that was the future of what he was just now saying. Now this guy was, he was about to pass away in front of my eyes. And he said, look, I'm old, I'm going to be fishing in 2 years. And he walked into this room, it was all young people, and he said, you guys are going to have to figure this out, because I got to be honest with you, none of us know what the hell to do. And we all looked at each other, and we realized he was being right. That this is this moment where they didn't, there's this convergence, and no one is really wrapping their heads around how to put it all together.
But you've got, and I know that there's a lot of technology that's going to change over this year, but let me just say once again that we have to, as journalists, I believe, wrap our arms around this thing. When I wanted to do the story on Iran last week, I found a tweet in Iran who I talked to through Gmail on audio in my show. When I wanted to cover the fires in LA 3 weeks ago, I found one of my Twitterers who was there in the fire and came on live on the phone and told me exactly what was going on. There are excellent and very reliable sources that I go to who are part of my followers that I use to do my newscast, aside from my consensus builders, which is what I take to standards and practices, which are the elders at CNN who tell me what I can say and how I should say it, and when I shouldn't report something, because it's an organization that works that way. I take their arguments to them and say, this is why I argue that we should do this story today, and I'm not leaving your office until you let me do it. And the arguments I bring with me are the ones that are in my pocket or in my BlackBerry or in my laptop that come from you on Twitter, all 100,000 of you, who make your points and make them so well. And it has made me, final point, it has made me a better journalist, it has made my show a better newscast.
If you were working for ABC in 1979 when CNN was starting to disrupt ABC or CNN or CBS or NBC, would we have the same conversation about that you're not able to react to the CNN that's doing this 24-hour-a-day news and they're using the newer technology?
The describing was one of a joke. Everyone thought that Ted Turner was a nut.
I don't understand why.
Why would that matter? So in many ways, yes, the analogy that you're drawing up is maybe to a certain extent Twitter is to many people, not to me, but to many people, what many people thought of CNN when they first came along. A joke, what are they talking about?
Look, I guess maybe what I'm missing here is that I don't know why there is not room for both. I think Twitter is amazing, but I don't think it represents every single person in the world. Okay, it's a group of people, and these people are creating a two-way broadcasting system, and I think that's fantastic. And I think what you're saying is great. But I don't know why that means that CNN doesn't do its deal, and maybe it gets better. And wait a second, one second. Maybe you get smarter and better, as you just said, because of Twitter. But I don't know why you're asking a question in the sense that you think, are you suggesting you think that Twitter is going to take over CNN and NBC and CBS?
Not take over, because CNN didn't take over ABC News, right?
So I don't see why there's a problem. I think,
but ABC News plays a dramatically smaller role in the world today than it did in 1979. Right? And I think in the future, CNN is going to play a dramatically smaller role in the world of news than the Twitter world is playing is going to play.
And that's groovy. So I think that's part of the deal.
And citizen journalism is what's going to push them up.
John C. Dvorak asked a contrarian question this week on Twitter. He said, let me ask you, he said, why? Why do we want that now? And he was being a contrarian in the space, and of course the point is, he says, why can't we wait a little longer for analysis, context? I mean, look what happened to Newsweek. Newsweek is now an analysis magazine.
To me, that's a false question, because we are getting analysis in very fast order. You look at what was going on the Huffington Post or Memorandum, even on Saturday, there was really good, in-depth analysis going on in real time, and it just got better, right? CNN started really turning on the guns on Sunday, it got better. I don't think it's an either or. I think, you know, news, the definition of news, when I got shown around the museum, it's what's happening now.
It's what's happening now accurately, is what it is. And I think that just as, and with all due respect, just as CNN, when it began, was a beginner and has now progressed, I think Twitter is at a beginning stage and is going to progress, and people are going to become smarter at using it and more connected, and I think you're absolutely right.
Talk to Twits, by the way, about whether news matters now or in an hour, right? Having news now does matter to people.
But yeah, it does.
The election of Barack Obama will matter in an hour.
But wait,
okay?
I just thought
so some news will matter in an hour, 2 hours, or 10 hours.
I just thought of something that you said, and it just hit me. Let's also not forget that without what we do, there'd be a hell of a lot of stuff that you guys aren't going to be able to talk about or share. Because the last time I checked, when I go to Twitter, no, let's talk responsibly here, since we all Twitter every day, a zillion times a day. Last time I checked, when I go to Twitter, I look at URLs, and I look at all kinds of links, and where are they coming from? Did you see what Ann Curry just had a conversation about on her show? Did you see what Fox News said? Did you see that crazy O'Reilly and the crazy stuff that he just did? Did you see Rick Sanchez and his interview with the guy from Darfur or the guy from Iran? So you guys, if we disappear,
That was the story about Saturday. You did disappear, and we got along fine. We just had video this big instead of this big. I'm sorry, but we have to stop. Thank you so much for thank you all. What? Question?
Yeah, just one question. What are we learning about? I've been thinking about maybe where the Iraq issue is a defining moment.
Iran.
The Iran issue is a defining moment in how we are reinventing ourselves. And I'm wondering, what are we learning here? What do we need to learn? What are we missing?
We need to work together. Right. Both of us.
I don't think we're at war, I think is the issue. But he's asking, what are we learning from the defining moment that we're saying the Iran election was? What are we learning from it? Who wants it? That's a very good question. Yeah. Oh.
But CNN should overstaff on Saturday.
Let's try to answer that question. Can we try to answer that question?
Try to answer that question.
But I mean, that's exactly what we were trying to address. And I was saying we were live on the air at the time and dealing with this, seeing these reactions in real time, and how do we then... We're a news organization, but just because we have these people saying these things doesn't necessarily make it accurate. And so there has to be this coming together of these sources and bringing it all together in a way that's not pandering and in a way that's not janky and in a way that's genuine.
And I think what you learned from Iran is that this is real, you know, and we need to figure out how we're all going to kind of work together. So
I think what we learned from the...
Guys, thank you so much. We're breaking for lunch. We'll be back here at 2 o'clock to restart.